Hey coders, welcome back. In this lecture, we are gonna learn how we can build an API with Node.js, Express.js, and MongoDB. The API will have features like sign up, sign in, sending email with verification code by which users can verify their account. Then we have changing password functionality. Then if user forgot their password, they can request a code and change their password or set up a new password. We have that functionality too. We have posts pagination, create and getting post. Then we have update and deleting post and many more. Now, who am I? I am Adil and I will be the instructor of this lecture. Make sure to hit the bell and go through my social accounts and check the description. You will find all the useful resource links. Now let's get back to the topic. So enough introduction. Let's start building our API from now. To do that, let's first check if Node.js and npm installed or not on our system. For that, search for cmd or terminal on your system, terminal, and here write the command node-v. If you get a version number, then Node.js is installed on your system. Then write npm-v. If you get a version number, then npm is also installed on your system. If you haven't these, just go to your Google Chrome or other browser and search for Node.js. Head over to this website and download the LTS version. npm will be installed with Node.js. Throughout this tutorial, I'm gonna use VS Code editor to write our code. If you prefer other code editor, you can use that. But if you want to install the VS Code, just write VS Code. Head over to this website and install this for your preferred OS. The installation process is very much easy. Just click on next, and that will be installed on your system. So let's close this window, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to this PC, open my F drive, which is programming, and here I'm gonna create a new folder with the name Auth project. Hit enter, and then I'm gonna open this folder, and then I'm gonna click on this search bar and write here cmd. This will open the folder in our terminal. So here I'm gonna write the command code dot. It will open the folder in VS Code editor. So I'm gonna close the terminal because we are gonna use the terminal provided by Visual Studio Code. So here I'm gonna click on this three dot and here terminal, then new terminal. I'm gonna initialize a new project with the command npm init. It will ask some questions. So first it will ask the package name. I'm gonna stick with the default. Then version number 1.00. Okay, it's okay. Hit enter. Description, I'm gonna not give a description for this moment. Entry point index.js. Okay, it's okay for us. Then test command, I'm not gonna give that at this moment. Then git repository, I will keep that blank. Keywords, I will also keep that blank. And for author, I'm gonna write my name, and the license will be empty. So it is asking, is this okay? I'm gonna click enter for yes. So it will create a package.json. And now let's create our entry file, which will be index.js. And here I'm gonna write just console log. I'll provide a string which is hello. Save the file. It's okay for this moment. So first, let's install our dependencies, what we are gonna use in this project. So in the terminal, let's write, let me zoom this VS Code so you can see properly. I'm gonna maximize that and close this window. So let's first install our dependencies, which we are gonna use in this project. So for that, I'm gonna write the command npm I, and we're going to use Express, obviously. Then I'm going to use bcryptjs for hashing and validating our passwords. Then I'm going to use cookie parser to parse cookies, and course for course issues. Then I'm going to use helmet for some SQL injection prevention. Then I'm going to use joy for some user data validation. Then I'm going to use JSON web token for authentication tokens, as we are going to use MongoDB. So let me install Mongoose as well. Mongoose. Then for sending emails, I'm going to use Node Mailer. Then hit enter. These packages will be installed on our project. So let's wait a little bit while the job is done. A little bit more. It can take a while. So the packages are installed. Here you can see the node modules folder where our packages got installed. So open the package.json, and here in the script I'm gonna delete this test script and write another script which is start, and here I'm gonna give a value which will be node, then dash dash env dash file equal dot env space index.js. I'm gonna create another script with the name dev, and here I'm gonna put node dash dash watch dash dash trace warnings dash dash env file equal dot env, then index.js. Now let me explain what is happening here. So this start script is for our production purpose, and this dev script is for our development purpose. So here we are telling node that, hey node, run index.js. In the development mode also we are telling, hey node, run index.js. So you can see here we have another flags which are dash dash env file and dash dash watch, something like this. So what does this do? So this dash dash env dash file, what it does is it reads some values from .env file. Previously we need to install a package which is .env to read the values from .env file. Now Node.js has default support for .env files. So for that we are gonna write dash dash env dash file then equal to .env. So here I'm gonna create a new file which is .env. So in the package.json we're gonna telling node, while running index.js, read environment variables from this .env file. So it is for production. In the development version we are telling, hey node, run index.js, and while running load the environment variables from .env file. And these two flags dash dash watch and dash dash press warnings is for when we make a change in our file, we have to restart the project again and again. By these flags we are telling node to restart the server as soon as we make any changes. So it is automatic. Previously we need to install nodemon for this task. Now Node.js supports this with this dash dash watch flag. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my index file, and in the terminal I'm gonna write the command npm run, and what we want to run, it is this script which is dev. So I'm gonna write npm run dev. So when I hit enter, it will print hello. So here you can see I write the command console log hello, so it is printing hello. So now our work begins. So before we start writing the actual project code, let me organize the folder structure. So here we need some folders. So first we are gonna have a folder with the name controllers, where the controllers functions will be located. Then we need another folder, middlewares, where will be our middlewares functions. Then we need another folder which is models, where our database models will be located. Then we need another folder which is routers, where our router files will be located. Then we will need the utils folder for utility functions. So we created our necessary folders, and I'm gonna create a .gitignore file, git ignore, and here I'm gonna write .env. So while we push this project to GitHub, the .env file should not be there. So let's go back to our index.js file. Here, let's import our express. So I'm gonna write const express equal to require express. Then I'm gonna write const app, then initialize an express instance. Then I'm gonna write app.get. So if a get request occurs in the slash location, we're gonna execute a function which has request and a response. It is an arrow function and it sends a response. So res.json, and it sends a message which is hello from the server. So we are using JSON response. So to work this properly, we're gonna tell this app that we're gonna use JSON data in our app. So I'm gonna write that app.use express.json. So now it understands we are using JSON data in our requests and response. Then lastly, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write app.listen, and here I'm gonna give a port where to listen. So I'm gonna write here process.env.port, and I'm gonna define this port in this env file. So I'm gonna write port is equal to, let's say, 8000. Save. So after that, when this listens to this port, we're gonna execute a function which is this arrow function, and it prints a message which is console.log listening. I'm gonna save the file. So Node will restart our server. Let me minimize this terminal a little bit. So to check this if it is working or not, I'm gonna open Postman, and I'm gonna create a collection, and the name of the collection would be JWT Auth. And here I'm gonna add a request. So add request. This will be a get request, and here I'm gonna write http ://localhost 8000. Let me send the request. So it is telling invalid protocol. So why is that? Oh, actually I put 3T here. Here it will be 2T. So http then : / localhost 8000. Let's send request again. Now you can see we get the message hello from the server. Perfect. So it's working. So let's go ahead. So let me make sure some things here to work our project perfectly. Here I'm gonna write app.use, and I'm gonna use course to solve the course policy issues. Then I'm gonna use app.use then helmet. So I'm gonna import helmet here. So I don't want to import like this. I'm gonna import like this. We need to import the course as well, so I'm gonna write const course equals require course. I need to call helmet here. We need to use the cookie parser to parse the cookies, so I'm gonna write const cookie parser equal to require cookie parser, and here I'm gonna tell app dot use cookie parser. Okay, so these things are done. So we have another thing. So let me put this cookie parser above the JSON, and after the JSON I'm gonna tell app dot use express dot URL encoded, and inside this I'm gonna tell extended to true. So now our app instance can read the URL encoded data. So the setup is complete now. Let me save this. So before moving forward, let's create our database. So open Google Chrome, and here search for MongoDB Atlas, and open this site, and here you will get this sign in button. Click on that. Then I'm gonna continue with my Google account. Here it is, continue. So after Google authentication, I'm gonna check this privacy policy checkbox and submit. So you can see the welcome message from MongoDB that the registration is success. So it will redirect now. So here, if you have just created your account, it will ask some questions. So it is asking what is your primary goal. Learn MongoDB. You can put anything, it doesn't matter. 1 to 6 months. So I'm gonna put random values here. So doesn't matter. Then click on this finish button. So it is telling us to create a cluster. So I'm gonna select this M0 cluster, which is free, and we're gonna use AWS and Mumbai, which is nearest to my country. You can choose your nearest location. So I'm gonna click on this create deployment button. Then it is asking for a captcha verification, so it is asking to select mountains. So here we have mountain here. Then no, we don't have any mountains, or do we? Yes, we have mountain here. Let's click on verify. Okay, it's done. Next, so it is giving a username, which is Adil test dev, and it is giving a password. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep a sweet and simple password, which is 1234567 8. You should not do this. You should create a strong password. So what I'm gonna do is so it is not creating because the password is too weak. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the password. Let's say the password is abc cba abc cba. Let's see if that works. Okay, it's working. So the password is okay, and now let's choose a connection method. So I'm going to use the drivers here, and it will give a string. It should give a string. So for this moment, I'm going to close this modal. Got it. So it is creating a cluster. It can take a while. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go to this database access. Okay, the user is added, and in the network access, what I'm gonna do is add an IP address. So it automatically added my IP address. You can add your IP address if not added automatically, or you can just allow access from anywhere. It is 0.0.0 like this, and you can confirm this. So if you allow access from anywhere, then from any machine you can access the database, but in a production app you should not do this. So let's go to the database tab. Here I have now a connect button. I'm gonna click on that, and then drivers. So here now we have a connection string which looks like this. So I'm gonna copy this and go to my end file, and here I'm gonna write mongo underscore URI equal, and I'm gonna paste that string here. And here in the placeholder of db password I'm gonna write abccba abccba. It is the password which we gave while creating this user. And here I'm gonna write a database name for our project. So the database name would be auth example. Make sure you do not use special characters here, just use English letters and don't have any spaces either. So I'm gonna save that. Then I'm gonna go back to my index file, and here I'm gonna import mongoose. So const mongoose, then require mongoose, and before this app.get I'm gonna write mongoose dot connect process dot env dot mongo URI. So here we have a promise. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write the then part. So then, and here I'm gonna execute another function, and that will simply print console.log database connected. So if the promise is fulfilled, then execute console log database connected. But if any error happens, so we're gonna catch that. So dot catch, then we have this error parameter here. Then I'm gonna execute another function and which will log the error. So I'm gonna write console.log error. So save. So after saving the file, you should see that the database is connected. So perfect. So as our database is connected, now we can create our database models. So let's move on to our models folder. So click on the models folder and let's create a file with the name users model.js. Here also I'm gonna import mongoose. So const mongoose require mongoose, then user schema. So const user schema, where we're gonna define a schema for our users. So mongoose dot schema, and here we will define our schema. So our user will have an email. So this email would be a type of string. So I'm gonna write type, and that would be string, and it is required. So I'm gonna write the so it is importing from joy. I don't know why. So I'm gonna remove this line, and here required will have true. That means it is required. And if the email is not provided, we want to show a message that email is required. And when someone provides an email, if that has spaces before and after that string, we're gonna trim that. So here trim should be true. Then the email should be unique. So if a user trying to register with the same email like 2 times, then it should throw an error and say that email must be unique. So that is okay. So I forgot the colon here, so it is yelling at me. Then let's write min length, and that would be 5. So at least an email should have 5 characters. So email must have 5 characters. Then I'm gonna use this lowercase option to true. So if someone provides email with uppercase letters, it will turn the letters to lowercase. So after email, we will ask our user for password. So password, and the type would be also string. Required, again it imported from Joy, so annoying. So it is true. Password must be provided. So I'm gonna use the trim here as well, and then I'm gonna use an option provided by Mongoose, which is select, and the value would be false. So this is important because while we query our users, we want that the password should not be fetched from database automatically if we do not explicitly tell the database to select the password. So if we make this select option to false, it will not include the password when we try to fetch the user from database unless we explicitly tell the Mongoose that we want the password as well. Okay, then after password we want another field which is verified, and the type would be boolean, means a user can be verified or not verified. And I'm gonna write the default option here, means while registering initially his verified status will be false. He has to make this verified status to true after some verification steps. Then I'm gonna write verification code. So it is for storing the codes we sent to the user for verification process. So the type would be again string select false. Then I'm gonna copy this, then paste, and rename this with verification code validation. I missed the comma here. I'm gonna give a comma and paste that again. Then we have a forgot password code. So forgot password code. So if a user forgets his password, we're gonna send a code and store that here. I'm gonna copy this and rename this with forgot password code validation. Okay, this would be number, and this as well. I'm gonna save the model. Okay, so then after creating the model, so we need the timestamps as well. So after defining the model schema here, I'm gonna write timestamps set to true. So when a record is created or updated, it will keep track of that. So the schema is ready, so I need to export that. For that, I'm going to write module dot exports equal mongoose dot model. The model name would be user, and we are going to pass the user schema, which is this one. I save the file. So this is done. Then we should create another model, which is posts model. So when a user posts something, this model will be responsible for storing those posts. So in this models folder, I'm going to create another file with the name posts model.js. I'm going to import mongoose here also. Require mongoose, then const post schema equals mongoose dot schema, and here I'm gonna define the schema. So the post will have a title, and the type would be obviously string, required, obviously true. We need the title. The message, if not provided, is title is required. Then trim should be true. Okay, I forgot the comma here. For title, the post will have some description, and that will be copy of this title. So I'm gonna copy paste and make this here description. Then we need to store which user has posted this post. So here we're gonna store the user ID, and the type would be mongoose dot schema dot types dot object ID. We could have right here string, but then it would be so much complex to populating the user data and other things. So we're going to use mongoose.schema.types.object ID. So this will link up the user with the post. And we have to write the ref, means the reference of the model where this user ID is from. So that reference is from the user model, right? This one actually. So ref is user, then required, yes, user ID must be provided while creating a post. Then after defining the schema, here we want the timestamps as well, timestamps set to true. The schema is complete, so I need to export that. So module that exports equal mongoose dot model. The model name would be post. Then we're gonna pass the post schema. So our models are created successfully. So now we can close this models folder, and let's go to the routers folder. So in the routers folder, what we are gonna do is we're gonna create a file called authrouter.js. Here I'm gonna write const express require express. Then I'm gonna define a router. So I'm gonna write const router equal express dot router. So now we have a router instance here. So let's use that router. So I'm gonna write router dot post. So if it is the post request and the route is /signup, then I'm gonna create a function which will be executed, and it will have two parameters, which is request and response, and it will send the response as a rest.json, and it will have a message which is sign up success. So let's go to our postman, and here after localhost I'm gonna write /signup, and the method is post. As you can see here, the method is post. So I'm gonna send the request. Okay, it's throwing an error which says cannot post or sign up. So what mistake did I make? Let me check. Okay, I did not use the router in our index file. So what I have to do is I'm gonna write module dot exports equal to that router. I'm gonna save that, and I need to import this in our index.js. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the top. Here I'm gonna write const auth router equal require dot slash. Then I'm gonna go inside the routers folder /auth router. So I'm importing the auth router from this file. So after importing, what I need to do is I have to use that router. So after this mongoose connection, I'm gonna write app.use auth router. So when app should use this auth router, we have to tell that in the first place, which is /API/auth. So if a route has /API/auth, then go to this file and handle the request. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save the file and go to the Postman, and here after localhost 8000 I'm gonna write API then /auth, so it will go to the auth router and then the sign up route. So sign up. Then I'm gonna send the request. Let's see what happens. So now you can see we get the message sign up success. So it is working fine, but one problem is that if we put all the code here in the router, the file will get so much bigger, it will be so complex to maintain. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a file in the controllers folder with the name auth controller.js, and here I'm gonna create a function and export that. So I'm gonna write exports dot sign up. So let's make this function an async function, so as there will be some database operations and other things, so we should make this function an async function. So async, then function has request and response, then curly braces, and I'm gonna cut this part of the code from here and paste it here. I'm gonna save this, then I'm gonna go back to my auth router. I'm gonna delete this and import the auth controller in this file. So what I'm gonna do is const auth controller require, and we're gonna give the path of our auth controller file. So // then we have controllers, and inside that we have auth controller. So when a request comes to this /signup, we want to execute the function which is inside the auth controller. So I'm going to write auth controller dot signup. Inside the auth controller file, execute the signup function. I'm going to save this. Let's see now if that works in Postman. So I'm going to send the request again. Again, we are getting the sign up success message. So everything is working fine. So now let's write the actual sign up function. For that, I'm gonna delete this. When user signs up in our site, we expect he or she should provide an email and password. So I'm gonna write const email password equals track.body. Track means this request. So while user trying to sign up, he should provide his email and password in the request body. So as we have the data now, we are gonna define a try catch block. So we will try some operations in the try block, and in the catch block, if any error happens, we're gonna log that. So console.log error. So if any error happens while executing this function, just console log the error. Before storing users data to our database, we should check that if user has provided correct data to us. So for that, we should use some validations. For that, in the middlewares folder, I'm gonna create a file with the name validator.js, and here I'm gonna require joy. So I'm gonna write const joy require joy. then I'm gonna create a schema for signup data validation. So I'm gonna write exports dot signup schema equal joy dot object. Inside here, I'm gonna tell to joy that when user provides an email, check if that is a string, minimum length is 6 characters, maximum length is 60 characters provided. So I'm going to use the required, then dot email, and here I'm going to set some options, which is TLDS, and here I'm going to allow .com domain and .net domain, means .com emails and .net emails. So the email schema is done. Then we should validate the password. I write password, and I'm gonna tell the joy that it will be a string and it will be required, and it will have a pattern which will define by a regular expression. So here I'm gonna write new regexp, and I'm gonna paste a regular expression here. So I pasted this regular expression from the internet. You can use JWT for creating these regular expressions. You can add some message as well. So if user have not provided the correct password, you can tell him what is wrong with this message. I'm gonna skip this for this moment. So the sign up schema is ready. I'm gonna go back to my auth controller.js, and here in the try block I'm gonna write const error value equal signup schema, and import that on the top from the middleware file, which is validator.js. So I'm gonna write signup schema dot validate, and here I'm gonna provide the email and password. The signup schema will validate this email and password which is provided by the user in the request body. Then if the validation has any error, it will return the error, or otherwise it will return the value. So what we are gonna do is we are gonna check if there are any error, then we will send a response with status 401 and with a JSON message. So here I'm gonna write success is false, and the message would be error dot details, and we want the first error message, so we're gonna have 0 here, and then dot message. And if there is no error, what we are gonna do is we're gonna check the database that if a user with this particular email already exists or not. So for that I'm gonna write const existing user equal await user. So I'm gonna import that user from our users model file, and I'm gonna name this user. I'm gonna rename this as well. I'm gonna call this user dot find one, and I'm gonna pass this email. So it will check if a user already exists on the database with that particular email. So if a user is already there in the database with that email, so if existing user, we're gonna send a response. So return res.status 401, so bad request. And the JSON, we're gonna set success is false, message would be user already exists. Okay, Then if a user does not exist with that email, we should proceed the task. So for that, now we should work with the password. So before storing the password, we should hash the password. So what we have to do is we should create a function to hash the password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the utils folder and create a file with the name hashing.js. And here I'm going to write a function with the name doHash. So I'm going to write exports dot doHash, and this function will have two parameters. One is value and another is salt value. Then result, and here we will have the hash function which I'm going to import from bcryptjs. So hash, and it should hash the value with that salt value. Then I'm gonna return the result. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my auth controller file. So if the user does not exist, then we have to hash the password. So I'm gonna write const hashed password await. I'm gonna call the doHash function and import that as well. So doHash, make sure that it is imported in the top. So in the doHash function, I'll give the password and 12 as argument. Then after hashing the password, I'm gonna write const new user, and here I'm gonna write new user, and here I'm gonna provide the email, and in the password I'm gonna provide the hashed password. Then the result part, const result, I'm gonna save the new user. So I'm gonna write new user dot save. So while saving the new user, Mongoose will return the email and the password as well. We don't want to send the hashed password to him. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the password undefined. So result dot password is equal undefined. For making that undefined, we're gonna send the response. So res dot status, which will be 201, and then JSON. There we will have the success set to true. Then we'll give the user a message that your account has been created successfully. Then we will send the result. So result and save. Now let's go to our Postman and see if the signup function works. So we have to send some data to the server. So in the body, I'm gonna select raw and application JSON, and here I'm gonna send the data, which will be email, and that would be abc@gmail.com. The password would be 12345678. See if that works. So it's not working. Let me see what is happening there. So it says we have invalid regular expression in our validator.js. So let's go to validator.js. So in the pattern, we did make a mistake. Let me paste another pattern here. Let's see if that works. So I'm gonna save that. Now let's send the request again. Okay, so this time the function is working. It is saying password with the value fails to match the required pattern. So we have to give some letters here. So also after adding a complex password, now our validation is working and our account has been created. Okay, that's good. So the sign up functionality is working. Now we should create a function which signs the user in. So I'm gonna copy this line and here I'm gonna tell if the route is sign in, then execute sign in function in the auth controller file. In the auth controller file, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create function with the name sign in. So exports dot sign in. It will be a async function with request and response. So here also we expect user will provide an email and password through the request body, and after receiving that, write a try catch block. So if there is any error, I'm gonna log that error. And in the try block, before proceeding, we should have some validation here as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my validator file, and there I'm gonna create a sign-in schema as well, which will be identical to the sign up schema. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this and paste that below and rename this to sign-in schema. So in the above we have sign up schema, and in the below we have a sign-in schema. So I'm gonna save this and go back to my auth controller here, and here I'm gonna write again const error, then value, and here I'm gonna call the sign-in schema to validate this email and password. And if there is an error, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy that part, this one, and paste it here. So if there is an error, send this response. Then if there is no error, we're gonna query the database. So I'm gonna write const existing user. Here I'm gonna write await user dot find one, and I'm gonna pass the email. After finding the email, we should select the passwords, because we have to match the password provided by the user with the password that is stored in the database. So we have to explicitly select the password, because while defining the model we have set the select to false. So here I'm going to write select, and here I'm going to write class password. So it will select the password while querying the user. So if there is no existing user, we're going to send a response. So I'm going to go back to the top and copy this and come back here and paste and modify this a little bit. So if there is no user, the message would be user does not exist. And otherwise, if the user exists, we have to compare the password. So we have to make a function that compares the user provided password with the password stored in the database. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my hashing.js file, and here I'm gonna write another function. So exports dot do hash validation value and hashed value as parameter, and here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna compare the value with the hashed value. So we expect a result while comparing. So compare, I'm gonna import this compare method from bcryptjs, provide the value and the hashed value. Then I'll return the result. We save the file. So in the auth controller, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna import the do hash validation function. I'm gonna write const result do hash validation. I'm gonna import that from the utils, and the argument I'm gonna give, okay, I need to await this. So before the do hash validation function call, I'm gonna write await. In the do hash validation function, I'm gonna provide, first I'm gonna provide the user provided password, then I'm gonna provide existing user dot password, which is stored in the database. this do hash validation function will check if these two matches. If matches, the result will be true, otherwise the result will be false. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check if the result is false, then send a response with the message invalid credentials. Otherwise, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a token. So I'm gonna write const token. If the result is true, I'm gonna create this token. So for that, I'm gonna use a JSON web token. So I'm gonna write a JWT. I have to import that first. So I'm gonna write const JWT will also require JSON web token. And now I'm gonna tell JWT to sign a token. So JWT.sign, and here I'm gonna provide some options. So this token will contain user ID. So user ID equals existing user dot underscore ID. Then it will have the email, the existing user dot email. Then it will have a verified. So existing user dot verified. After these, we have to pass a token secret. So in the .env file, where is that .env file, we will have token secret. Give here a big and a secure string. For testing purpose, I'm just writing secret. Saving the file. Here I'm gonna provide that. So that would be process.env dot token secret. So the token has been created. Then after the creation of the token, what we're gonna do is we're gonna send that token with the user data. So I'm gonna write res dot cookie. The cookie name would be authorization. For the value, we have a bearer and then the token. Then we can give here the time when the cookie should be removed or expired. So I'm going to write expires, which accepts a date. So I'm going to write new date, then date dot now plus 8, then 3650. So the cookie should be removed after 8 hours. Then let's set if the cookie should be HTTP only or not. So HTTP only. So it should be HTTP only when the project is in production environment. So I'm going to write process.env dot node env. In production, this node env will have value production. So if the environment is production, then the cookie should be HTTP only. I'm gonna copy this, and we have another thing which is secure. So if the environment is production, the cookie should be secure. And with the cookie, let's send a JSON response where success is true. Then let's send the token as well for the front-end developer if he needs that, and a message logged in successfully. Let's save the file and go to our Postman to see if the route works. So I'm gonna change the route to sign in. Let's see if that works. So there must be any error. Okay, sign in schema is not a function. So the sign in schema, where did I make a mistake? Oh, sorry, this should be sign in schema dot validate. This validate method should do the validation. I'm gonna save this and go to the Postman again and send the request again. You can see the success is true and the message is logged in successfully, and we have the token. Great, everything is working fine. So the sign in functionality is done. Okay, before moving forward, let's add expire date for the token as well. So here I'm gonna write a comma in the JWT.sign, and here I'm gonna write expire sin and set the value 8 hour. After 8 hour, the token will be expired. The cookie will be also removed. That's okay. So the sign up and sign in functionality has been implemented. So let's implement the sign out function as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my routers file, auth router file actually, and there I'm gonna copy this line, and this would be slash sign out dot controller dot sign out, and here I'm gonna write the sign out function. So I'm gonna write exports dot sign out equal async, and it has request and response, and inside the curly braces I'm gonna write res dot clear cookie with the name authorization. The status would be 200, and the JSON would be success true, and the message would be logged out successfully. I'm gonna save the file. Let's go to the postman, and I'm gonna make this sign out. So we are logged out successfully. Let's make this sign in because we will need that in future. So the sign out function, it is done. So we need a function to make the user verified. So for that we have to send email to our users with a code. So for that, let's implement a function with the name send verification code. So I'm going to write exports dot send verification code, which is an async function with request and response. Here we expect an email from the request body. After receiving that, have try catch block, and if there is any error, write console log error, and in the try block, let's check if the user exists with the provided email. So I'm going to write const existing user await user dot find one, and I'll provide the email. So if not existing user, for that I'm gonna copy this line of code and paste it here. So if not existing user, we're gonna send message which is user does not exist with a status code 401. Let's say 404, user does not exist. And if user exists with the email, we're gonna check if existing user got verified, means if he is already verified. So if he is verified already, we're gonna send another response for the status 400, and we'll tell that you are already verified, and if he is not verified, we will send a code to him to his email. So for that, let's generate a code. So for generating a code, you can use the Node.js crypto module, but for this moment I'm gonna use the math function. So I'm gonna write const code value equal math dot floor. So that I'm gonna call again math dot random and multiply with 1,0,0,0,0,0,0. So then I'm gonna make this code to string. Okay, this is done. So the code has been generated. We have the code. Now we have to send the code to the user. For that, we need to make a function to send emails. For that, in the middleware's folder, I'm gonna create a file with the name sendmail.js, and here I'm gonna import node mailer. So I'm gonna write node mailer require node mailer. For that, I'm going to create a transport. So I'm going to write transport node mailer dot create transport, and I have to give some options here. So firstly, we have the service, which will be Gmail. I'm going to use Gmail because Gmail allows 500 email sending per day. You can use SendGrid or other paid services if you wish for, but for this moment I'm going to stick with the Gmail. And then after services we have Auth. There we have some options like user. Then after user we have to give the password. For that, in the .env file, what is that? I'm going to create another variable which is node code sending email address is, this is adil.test.dev@gmail.com. Okay, I'm gonna copy this here. I'm gonna write process.env and that variable. And the .env file, create another variable with the name node code sending email password. And for this password we have to go to our Google account. So let's go to our Google account. So google.com. Here let's go to manage your account, and in the search bar write app password and select this option which is app passwords. So it will ask some verifications. After that, create an app here with some name. So I'm going to write Auth. You can give any name and create. It will create the app and it will give a password. So I'm going to copy this and paste that here. I'm going to remove the spaces in between. Save the file. In the same function, I'm going to use this password. So I'm going to copy this and paste that here. Save the file. So we have the transport now. To use this anywhere, we have to export this. So I'm going to write a module dot exports. We want to export the transport. Okay, we have exported the transport. So in the controller, we will send the email. So I'm going to write let info. Here I'm going to write await transport, which may be imported at the top automatically. Yes, we have the transport here. And transport dot send mail. Here we'll send the email from our process dot env, and the address is this one. So we're sending the email from there to here, and after that we have an option which is to, means to which user we want to send the email. So the address would be existing user dot email. Then we can specify a subject. Let's say it is verification code, and then the email body we can send HTML code. So here I'm gonna write a string. Let's say I have h1. Then here I'm gonna pass the code value. After that, closing h1. So it will send the email to the user email address. So then we will check if the email sending is successful or not. So in the if block, we're gonna check info dot accepted the 0th position email is equal existing user dot email. Then if the code sending is successful, we will save the code in our database. Before saving the code in the database, we should hash that code, but we should not use the bcrypt because that makes the operation slower. So we will use the HMAC process provided by Node.js itself. So in the hashing.js file, I'm going to create another function. So I'm going to write exports dot hmac process equal this function, which has two parameter with the value and key, and it will have some result after the operation. So I'm gonna write it const result, and here I'm gonna write create hmac, and it will be a SHA-256 algorithm. Then it will have a key, then dot update the value provided with digest to hats, and then after that we're going to return the result. So I have to import the hmac, create hmac from Node.js crypto. So for that I'm going to write const create hmac from equal require the crypto module. Let's save the file and go back to the auth controller file. Here I'm going to write const hashed code value equal hmac process, import that function and provide the code value, a key which will be process dot env dot hmac verification code secret, and I'm going to create this variable in my .env, and I'm going to write secret, but you should use a stronger secret. Okay, so after we get the hashed code value, we're gonna update the user. So existing user dot verification code equal hashed code value. Then we have to save a validation time for this code. So I'm gonna write existing user dot verification code validation equal date dot now. Then I'm gonna await to save the user. Right, await existing user dot save. Then after saving the user, gonna return a response. So return res dot status 200 JSON with success set to true, and message which is code sent. And if the code has not been sent, we're gonna send a 400 response that code sent failed. I'm gonna save the file. Okay, I have an error which is node code sending email password in the send mail function. So what I have made a mistake, mail password. So mail password is not defined. Let's see what happens. It is defined but not working. Why is that? Let me restart the server. Run dev. So what's the problem here? In the middleware send mail, password is not defined. Set the password. Where did I make a mistake? Send mail function. So what's the problem here? Okay, I missed the process.env here. Okay, let's save that. Now it should work. Okay. So let's go to the postman from the auth router. So this would be a patch request. So I'm going to write router dot patch. The route would be send verification code, and if this is the route, it should execute the controller dot send verification code function. Okay, so let's see if that is working. So I'm gonna go back to my postman. I'm gonna create a real account. So here I'm gonna give my email address, which is adil.test.tab@gmail.com. Let me send the request. Okay, my account got created. So I'm gonna create another request. That would be a patch request, and the URL would be send verification code. The body will have the email. The value would be adil.test.dev@gmail.com. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send the request. So it said that there is no such route. Yeah, okay, so the route name is wrong. Should use this one here. Now let's see if that works. Okay, the code sent, and let's see if we get our code. So I'm gonna go to my gmail.com. We got our code. So the code sending part is working. Now we need a function to verify this code and make the user verified. Before that, let's go back to our auth controller file again, and after this send verification code function, let's create another function which is exports dot verify verification code. It will be a same function request response. So here from user we expect his email and the provided code from request body. So I'll create a try catch block, and if there is an error, then I'll log the error. And the try block, we have to check if he has provided his email and the code. So for that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my validator.js file. Here I'm gonna define another schema which is exports dot accept code schema, and it will have joy dot object. It will accept email. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy from the top, then after email it will accept a code. So I'm gonna write provided code, which will be a number, joy dot number, and it is required. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy some code from the top, which is this part, paste that here, and I'm gonna change this, which is accept code schema but validate, and provide the email and provided code. If there is error, return this response, and if not any error, go ahead. For that, I'm gonna write const code value equal provided code to string. Then I'm gonna write const existing user await user dot find one. I'm gonna find the email, and we have to select verification code and the verification code validation. So if we do not get the existing user, I'm gonna copy some code from above, which is this one. If not existing user, then send this response. Otherwise, check if existing user dot verified. So if it is true, then send a response to return res dot status 400, and the JSON would be success false, and the message would be you are already verified. Okay, then we will check some other things, like if existing user dot verification code, if that is not available, or verification code validation not available, then we'll send a response telling the user that something is wrong with the code. Save the file. So if that is not the case, everything is okay, then we will check another thing, which is if date dot now minus existing user dot verification code validation greater than 5 into 60 into 1000. So if the code has been sent before 5 minutes and the user has not validated himself within that 5 minutes, we are gonna throw an error. The response, we will say that turn code has been expired. Okay, but if this is okay, then we're gonna check the hash. So I'm gonna write const hashed code value equal hmac process, and we will give the value which is code value and the hmac secret which is process dot and hmac verification code secret. If hashed code value is equal existing user dot verification code, then we will set existing user dot verified equal true. I will set the existing user dot verification code to undefined, and again existing user dot verification code validation to undefined as well. Then I'm gonna save the user. Alright, existing user dot save. Then after the verification and saving the user, we're gonna send the response with status 200 and success set to true, and we will tell the user that your account has been verified. Save, and if anything unexpected occurs for that outside the if block, I'm gonna write this, which is unexpected occurred. Save. So let's go to the post before that. So in the auth router, let's make a copy of this route and call this route verify verification code. This would be verify verification code. Save the file. Let's go to the postman. Again, let's send a code. So okay, we have another code, I guess. So let me refresh this. Okay, we got the code. I'm going to copy this and again go to the postman, and this time with the email I'm gonna give the provided code value and the code itself. The route would be verify verification code. So let me check if the field name is provided code value. Okay, it is provided code. So I have to change provided code value to provided code. So I'm gonna send the request. Okay, so we got the success message, which is your account has been verified. You can check that in your database also. So here, if I browse the collections, you can see the account, the verified status is true. Okay, so we have to make some improvements, and that is user should not able to execute sign-out function without a token. Similarly, they should not request a code without a token. They should not able to verify their account without a token. Means if they're not logged in, they should not able to perform some actions. So for that, in the middlewares folder, let's implement some authorization. So here I'm gonna create a file with the name identification.js. To create such functionality, we need JWT. So I'm going to write const JWT equal require JSON web token and create this middleware function, which is exports dot identifier equal function, which has request response and next. So let's initialize a variable with the name token. For that, let's check if request dot headers dot client equal browser, not browser actually, then we will try to get the token from the headers. So rec dot headers dot authorization, else we will try to get the token from the cookies. The token equal rec dot cookies, and the cookie name is authorization. So after getting the token, let's check if in case we not get the token, then we have to send a response, return res status 403 JSON success set to false and message which is unauthorized. And in a try catch block error, block the error. In the try block, let's define a constant with the name user token equal token split with a space, and we will take the second value. And after getting the user token, let's verify with JWT. So I'm going to write const JWT verified equal JWT dot verify, and here I'm going to give the user token, and in the second argument I'm going to give process dot n dot token secret. So if JWT verified, will set the user in the request object. So red.user equal to JWT verified, and after setting the user in the request object, we will call the next, else we will throw an error. The error would be error in the token. Save the file. So the identifier function is done. So I'm going to go back to my auth router. So here what I'm going to do is import the identifier and use it in these functions. So I want that without any identifier, user should not able to execute sign out functionality. So for that, before this auth controller sign out, I'm going to use that identifier function. So I'm going to write identifier, import that from our middleware's file. I want that here also, identifier, and here also identifier. So before executing this identifier function will be executed. Okay, so far so good. So let's implement changing password functionality. So for that, I'm gonna create another function with the name change password. There will be a async function with request response. First, to change password, the user should be logged in. So we're gonna fetch the user ID, your ID, and verified status from the request dot user, which we set in the identification.js here. After that, from body we expect old password and the new password. So let's add a try catch block, and if any error occurs, we're gonna log the error. In the try block, first we have to check if the user has passed the old and the new password. For that, in the validator.js, we will create another schema. So let's create that sports dot change password schema object, so we expect to password. So I'm going to copy this part, paste here. I'm going to change the name, which will be new password. Copy this, paste again, and this will have the name old password. After creating the schema, let's get back to the authcontroller.js, and here I'm gonna copy some code from here and paste that here, and I'm gonna change this. This will be change password schema, but validate. Here I'm gonna provide the old password and the new password, and if an error occurs, we're gonna send this response, and if everything's okay, we're gonna move forward. Then we're gonna check if he's verified or not. So if he's not verified, we're gonna send a response which will say you are not verified user. So if we implement this, user have to be verified to change his password, but if we remove this, user can still change the password without verifying his account through a code. So the choice is yours. If you want to keep this, you can keep, otherwise you can remove this part of the code. So if he is verified, I'm gonna check const existing user await user dot find one, where I underscore id is equal to user id, and we have to tell that we want to select the password. So I'm going to copy some code from here and paste here. So if user does not exist, we're going to send the response that user does not exist. But if he does exist, we're going to check if the old password is correct or not. For that, we expect a result, and here we're going to do hash validation. We're going to provide the old password and the existing user dot password. If the result is falsy, we're gonna send a response telling invalid credentials. But if that is correct, then we will hash the new password. So const hashed password await do hash the new password, and the salt is 12. Then existing user dot password equal to hashed password, which will update the password, and then I'm gonna save the existing user. So await existing user dot save. After updating the password and saving the user, let's send a response with status 200 saying password updated. The success would be true. Save the file. Let's check if everything works fine. Oh, before that, let's go to the auth router, and here I'm gonna copy this, and the route would be change password, and we'll check if he's logged in or not. Then we'll execute auth controller dot change password and save the file. So let's get back to the Postman to check if everything works fine. So in the headers, we have to add a header which is client val would be not browser, then authorization, which will accept a token. So let's get a token, and then I'm gonna send request. Here is a token. Here I'm gonna write bearer, and then the token. In the body, I'm gonna write the old password, which is this one. Then I'm gonna provide a new password, which will be this. Let's send a request. So it is telling email is required. Why is that? Let's check. Because we are sending the request to verify verification code, but the route would be change password. If we send the request again, it is saying fails to match the pattern. So we have to change the password a little bit. So underscore. Let's use the old password and add extra hash and send a request. So it is telling you are not a verified user. So why is that? It is telling that I am not verified, but let's sign in again and let's use this token. Let's send the request again. So it is telling you are not a verified user. Why is that? Let's check. So in the sign in, okay, so I made a mistake here. While creating the token, I misspelled the verified spelling. So now let's sign in again. Let's take this token and use that here. Let's try to change the password again. So congrats, you can see the message and the success is true. The message is password updated. So we successfully implemented password changing feature. So in authentication, we have another thing which is forgot password functionality, and let's implement this. Then the major parts of our project will be covered today. So this functionality actually is kinda similar to the verification process. So I'm gonna copy these two functions, which is send verification code and verify verification code. So I'm gonna copy these two functions and paste them here. I'm gonna change the names. The name would be here. The name of this function will be send forgot password code, and this would be verify forgot password code. So in the send forgot password code, let's see which changes we have to make. So we have to first take the email from the user. Then we're gonna check if the user exists or not. If he does not exist, we will send this response that user does not exist. We will remove this part of the code. This is not needed. Then we will generate a code with the math function. Then I'm gonna send the email. The subject would be forgot password code, and we will send the email to existing user.email. If it is accepted, we will HMAC process the code value and save that in the database and send a response to the user, which is code sent. So okay, so after the email gets delivered, we're gonna hash the code value. Then we have to save that in the database. So existing user.forgot password code. Let me check the model. What is the name of that field? Forgot password code and the forgot password code validation. Then I'm gonna save the user and send the response that a code has been sent. And in the verify forgot password code, let's see what we have to modify. So here we expect the email, the provided code, and a new password from request body. So to validate this data, let's go to validator.js and create a schema with the name accept fp code schema which is joy.object, and we expect the email. So let me copy paste email provided code and a new password. So here I'm gonna validate with accept fp code schema. Then if there is an error, I'm gonna send this response. Otherwise, I'm gonna make the provided code to a string and store it in the code value constant. And here I'm gonna change this to forgot password. So while fetching the user, this to field should be included. And if the user does not exist, we are gonna send this response that user does not exist. I'm gonna remove this part because we can't check the verified status here because he is not logged in and he has forgotten his password. I'm gonna change the name of this tool, so it will be forgot password, and this also forgot password, and here also forgot password. I'm gonna remove this line. Let's see if everything works. Before that, we have to add these two routes in the auth router. So I'm gonna make two copy of this. First route would be send forgot password code, then verify forgot password code, and we don't need the identifier here. The functions are send forgot password code and here verify forgot password code. So let's see if these two routes works or not. So it would be send forgot password code, and let me send the request. It is telling not found because the request would be patch. Let me send the request again. So a code has been sent to my address. So let's check. Here you can see the forgot password code. I'm going to copy this. Here the route would be verify forgot password code, and we will send a new password and a provided code and the email. Let's see what happens. It is telling new password is required. Is there any spelling mistake here? Let's send. It is telling new password is required. So let's see what's the problem here. So verify forgot password code. Okay, so I'm not providing that here. Okay, the function has some bugs. Let's fix them. The bugs are we are not saving the new password. So for that, let's go back to the sign up function and copy this line. So after the hashed code value has matched with the forgot password code, we have to do hash the new password. So new password, and then existing user dot password equal hashed password. So now the function is complete. Let's check that. If I click on the send button, it is telling your account has been verified. Actually it has been, but actually it has updated the password. We just forgot to change the message. The message would be password updated. So let's try again. Go to Postman. Let's request for a code. The code has been sent. You can see the code. Let's copy that and put that here and change the new password, and let's send the request again. Now you can see password updated, means we have succeeded. So the authentication process is complete in this project. Now let's work on our post functionality. For that, in the router folder, I'm going to create a file with the name posts router.js, and I'm going to copy the author router and paste that here and make some necessary changes. So we don't need this, so I'm going to remove that. So here we're going to have a get route, which will be all posts, then another get route which will be single post, then a post route which is create post, then a put route which is update post, and a delete route which will be delete post. Let me remove these, and in the controllers folder, let's create a file with the name posts controller.js and import that here. So I'm going to write posts controller. In the posts controller, I'm going to have a function which is sports.getPosts, which will be a sync function, request and response, which will log hello. So I'm going to write get posts. I'm going to import the posts controller for using this get posts method. I'm going to comment these four functions and save the file and go back to my index.js. Here I'm going to make a copy of this and make this posts router, and tell the app to use posts router when request comes to /API/posts. So let's get back to the post controller and start writing the function. So in this function, we expect a page number. So const page equal break dot query, and let's make a constant to set how many posts we will send to the user per request. So const posts per page, let's say it is 10, and let's define a try catch block occurs, then we are gonna log the error. If everything is okay, then let's define a page num variable. Let's say the value will be 0. So if page less than or equal to 1, we're gonna make the page num to 0, else the page num would be page minus 1. For that, let's fetch posts from database. So I'm gonna write const salt await post and import the post from post model, and let's rename this to post and this as well to post dot find. We're gonna sort the posts according to the created at time. We're gonna skip some posts if the page increments, so page num into posts per page. We're gonna set the limit to posts per page. Then after querying the data, let's send the response. We can also populate the post creator by using dot populate. Inside that, we're gonna give the path, which is user ID. So if you see the posts model, you can see the field has the name user ID. So the path is user ID. let's select the email only. Okay, so here I missed a comma, so the prettier is yelling at me. Okay, now everything is okay. So after querying the data, let's send this to the user. So res.status will be 200, JSON success will be true, and the message will be posts, and we will include the result in the data. So let's check if the route is working or not. So API slash hosts slash all hosts. Let's send the request. Okay, I forgot to change the method. It would be get. Let's send the request again. Okay, the request got success with the message posts, but we do not have any post in the database yet, so the data array is empty. So let's create the create post route. So I'm gonna uncomment this line, which has the route create post. User has to be logged in to create a post, and when user hits this route, we're gonna execute posts controller dot create post. Save. So I'm gonna create the function exports dot create post async request and response. We expect a title and a description from the request body and the user ID from rec.user. Then let's define the try catch block. If error occurs, we're gonna log that. We also log error. In the try block, first we're gonna verify that if title and description has been provided or not. So let's go to the validator.js. Let's copy this schema, paste this, rename this to create post schema. This would be title. Then we will have description. So I'm gonna copy this description. Max value will have 600. Then we expect a user ID. So joy dot string dot required. Save. So let's get back to post controller. Let me copy some code from our auth controller, which is this part. Let's provide the title, description, and user ID to create post schema. If some error occurs, we're gonna send this response, and if everything is okay, we'll create the post. So const result await post dot create. We're gonna give the title, description, and the user ID. Let me copy the response from here and paste here, and the message would be created. Status would be 201. Save. It will be a post request. Route would be create post. We have to give the bearer token. And here the title would be something. The description would be something more. Let me send the request. As you can see, the posts were created. Title is something. The description is something more. Let's try to fetch the all posts. Let me make this get. So on the request, you can see we're getting all the posts stored in the database. Let me create another one. Something 2. The description would be something more 2222. Okay, let's send the request. Okay, I forgot to change the method. This would be post. So the request, you can see the post got created. Let's try to fetch all the posts. So let's make this get on the request. You can see we get all the posts. Now let's create a route to get a single post. I'm going to copy this and paste it here. I'm going to rename this to single post. I'm going to expect an ID from query. I'm going to remove this pagination logic, and here I'm going to write find one method. In the options, I'm going to pass the underscore ID, and the message would be single post. I'll save the file, and in the post router, let me uncomment this. So when user will hit the single post route, we're going to execute the post controller dot single post function. Save. Let's see if that works. So I'm gonna copy the ID of this host and change the route to single host, and in the query let's pass the ID and send the request. As you can see, we get a single post, so it is working fine. And now let's make the update post function. For that, I'm gonna copy this create post function and rename this function, which will be update post. And from the body, we expect title and description, and from the request object, we expect the user ID. We can validate using the create post schema because everything is required. We don't need to create another schema for updating the post. That will be okay. So if any error occurs, we're gonna send this response. Otherwise, we will move ahead, which is querying the post. So if there is no error, I'm gonna find the post. So existing post, await post.find one, and I'm gonna find with the underscore ID. So if post does not exist, we're gonna send response telling post unavailable. I think this should be implemented in here also. So let me rename this result to existing post. So okay, so in the single post also, if we don't able to find the post, we're gonna send a response that post is unavailable. And here also in the update post function, we'll try to find that if the post is not available, we're gonna send this response. Otherwise, we're gonna check if existing post dot user id dot to string. I'm making this to string because it will be an object ID provided by Mongo. So first I'm gonna make this a string. So after that, I'm gonna check if that is equal to the user ID what we get from the request object. And if that is the case, okay, I'm gonna check if that does not match. And if that is the case, I'm gonna send a response saying that unauthorized. Unauthorized. Otherwise, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna allow the user to update the post. So I'm gonna remove this, write existing post dot title equal this title, and existing post dot description equal description. Then let's save that updated data. So const result equal await existing post dot save. And after saving the post and updating that, we're gonna send the response. Okay, this will be semicolons. So after saving the post and updating the data, I'm gonna send the response with the message updated. The status would be 200. Let's try that if that works or not. So first I have to uncomment this, get post. So this would be posts controller dot update post. Let me save this and let's go back to Postman. I think I have missed something, which is I'm not collecting the underscore ID. So I have to collect the underscore ID from track.query. Now this should work. So the method is put, the route is update post. I'm using this post ID. Look carefully, the post has a title something to. Now let's change the title. So let's make this something to something big. Then let's send the request. As you can see, the post got updated. The title is now something big. So our project is almost done. Let's implement the delete post functionality. So I'm gonna uncomment this, copy this, paste that here, rename this, go to post controller. I'm gonna copy this, update post function, paste that, rename the function to delete post. I'm gonna remove this validation part and try to find if the post is available or not. We don't need the title and description from the reg.body. So if the post is not available, we're gonna send the response post already unavailable. Then if post is available, we're gonna check if existing posts user ID matches the user ID from the token. If that is the case, if that does not matches, we're gonna send the response with the message unauthorized. And if that matches, we're gonna go ahead and delete the post. So for that, we're gonna run post dot delete one, and we're gonna pass the underscore ID. We need to await that, otherwise it won't work. So after deleting the post, we're gonna send the response deleted. I'm gonna save the file and let's see if that works or not. So I'm gonna change the route name. The method would be delete and ID we are providing this one. So let's send the request. So we have an error, which is a result is not defined. So we don't need to send this. So I'm gonna remove that part and save. Let's check again. Let's see if that works or not. So previously it deleted the post, but unable to send the expected response. So this is now unavailable. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the other post. So get the route is all posts, maybe send the request. Yeah, so here is an ID. Let me copy this and now try to delete this post. So I'm gonna change this ID. The method would be delete. Let's send the request. As you can see, we have succeeded. The post got deleted. So that's all for this project. We have learned so many things about authentication, authorization, and other things. So I'm gonna push this repository to my GitHub and put the repo link in the description. You can check that later. So thank you all. Wishing you good luck.